Put down that gene splicer. It's time for Science Sci-Friday on SkyWatch TV. Today, a special program on Friday the 13th of November in 2015. I'm Derek Gilbert. Coming out in just a few days, the documentary film from SkyWatch TV and Defender Films, Inhuman, the final phase of man is here. Joining me in studio to talk about some of the background behind the film, Tom Horn and my best friend, Sharon K. Gilbert.
Hi, sweetie. And we are so excited to have you with us on Sci-Friday.
Yeah, well, I've got the chance to be there with you guys yesterday, so I thought I'll just hang out and come back and we'll do it again.
Exactly. Well, the cool thing is that you came up with the idea many years ago. It's been 5 years in the making to get this documentary done. So lots of behind-the-scenes work, script writing, setting up interviews. Who was your favorite person to talk to?
Oh, wow, that would be really hard to say because, you know, it's amazing. Probably Gary Stearman was the one guy that you wouldn't really have expected to stand out in this documentary film. And because you have done so much work on the film as well, including a great deal of the narration, as people will discover, and you were our science advisor all along the way, you know, you would want to pick someone like Hugo de Garis, right? Some guy that's decades of research into artificial brain designing. But Gary, you know, our friend, he just comes across in such a way that he's very intelligent too, and he is smart about science and all that. But he had a way of kind of bridging the gap between the world views that really appealed to me, because I'm trying to look at the science. I want to see the good of it as well as the bad. I do believe there will be a lot of good that comes out of biotechnology.
Oh, absolutely.
But I also have real concerns when we start talking about tinkering with God's creation.
Right.
You know, it's easy to go from something that's meant to be pharmaceutical to altering, crossing over those barriers that God in His wisdom put together. So those questions were really important to me, and Gary kind of just stood out over and over again as having a way of kind of putting that all together in a way that made sense to me. So he really stood out, but I can't say he was absolutely my favorite, because I have 6 or 7 that were absolutely my favorites, depending on the point in the film.
Well, praise God you were inspired to do this, because I've seen enough of it. I got the privilege of reading through the entire script, reading much of the narration so as it was recorded. And it's I think when you guys get this into your homes, you're going to want to share this with your friends, your family. You're going to want to take it to your church and have them watch it there, because this is going to give you a really good handle on what's coming.
By the way, let me jump in again. I'm glad you brought that up, because Gon Shimura, who worked with a lot of the film editing, told me that he took the final version that went to the duplicator, he took it to his church, and it's a 3-hour film. And he said the church was just blown away. They just absolutely loved it. They thought it was over-the-top production quality, and the subject matter is meaty. You know, when we started this film, I said, I don't want it to be any longer than 1.5 hours.
I remember when you said that.
But we wound up with so much good material, so much important and timely material, that we just could not censor it down.
Well, in fact, we also had the discussion of trying to get it all onto one disc. And that would have cut out so much important information that we just said, and you, to your credit, said, let's just make it 2 discs.
We had to, because this is meaty from the beginning to the end. It's not filler. You know, I've watched films before where I'm like, okay, hurry up, get to the point, right? This film's not like that. You almost have to slow down sometimes and say, what? Let me see that again, rewind, right?
You'll find yourself taking notes.
Well, as someone with a background in biology, and I'll brag on my wife, she graduated with honors from Indiana University with a degree in molecular biology.
I was honorary.
Which is why my dad kept telling me, son. But what is it about the science that is part of the transhumanist movement, the aspects of the research or their goals that are concerning you as a scientist?
Well, first of all, I do want to talk about the good sides of it, and being able to go in and correct mutated genes that are causing diseases, birth defects. I think this is a great idea.
Absolutely.
My problem comes in when someone says, let's redesign humanity. Let's make us better. Let's find ways to make us live way beyond our natural lifeline right now. Let's find ways to maybe change gender from, from the fetal stage. Let's find ways to make people more homogeneous. Let's find ways to make people more adaptive to the way our environment is changing, to the way jobs are changing, to the ability to maybe go online all the time from a very early age, making someone have a neural network that is set up to automatically receive Wi-Fi signals. There are some crazy ideas out there, and I say crazy because it seems crazy as a Christian to look at some of the plans that are in place. But as you and I have talked many, many times, the biggest fear is most science is driven by military needs.
Yes.
And so we have to look at what our military and militaries across the world want to do with this.
Yeah. One of the things that we've learned as we've been reading the history of DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, is that if we're learning about the science now, DARPA's been working on it for decades, and probably similar organizations in England and Russia, in China, Japan, Australia, the advanced nations of the world are working on this, because even though we, and you encountered this, I'm sure in your interviews, Tom, if we in the United States aren't the first ones to develop this, well, the Russians will get it or the Chinese will get it, and then they'll have a competitive advantage for us. We're finding out that the weapons systems that we thought were only deployed in the first Gulf War, or in in 2003 when we went into the second Gulf War, were actually deployed in Vietnam and had been in development since the 1950s. Sure. So the question, and investigative journalist Annie Jacobson did a wonderful job with this book called The Pentagon's Brain, asking the question, that's DARPA's job, and they are working on cognitive research, how to improve cognition in soldiers, how to change the biology of soldiers so they can operate with less sleep, with fewer psychological repercussions, consequences from taking the lives of other human beings. How can this be weaponized? I mean, some of the research is good because there are many soldiers who suffer massive head trauma. And it would be wonderful if we could come up with technology that would allow them to restore function so that they could live normal lives again. Well, but again, DARPA's primary function is to find a way to weaponize the technology.
Imagine this. Most people probably know by now that laboratories all across the country can pay a few $100s and they can order a kit. That kit can be used to actually alter the gene within an individual.
Right. Right now, they're primarily in vitro. So it's in essentially a...
But there is a headline you can read today where there are upstart companies now that are raising funds and they want to start human trials.
Yes. But I just say that because I don't want people watching now to think that that labs all over the place are selling stuff that allows us to, change your DNA.
But it's where we're going. And so if these small laboratories across the nation are at the point where they can begin doing these kind of experiments. Imagine the military with their unprecedented budgets, their SAPOC programs that are beyond congressional review, that have been at the forefront of this technology. And when we learned that the Chinese recently had been doing experiments on human embryos to change them at the germline level, as soon as you read the headline, you think, I wonder how many years ago DARPA got past this line, because if the public's finding out about it, we know that they're far in advance of that technology. Now, it'll be way too much for some people watching this documentary to wrap their mind around this question. Let's say I had a kit sitting here. I'm a laboratory, right? And I've got a kit. At what point does this become a key to alter humans for the purposes of incarnating fallen angels? Because according to history, and if you believe the Bible, this did happen once before.
Yes, it did.
And we are now on the cusp for the first time since the Great Flood of repeating that technology. And is that what was implied by Jesus when he said, as it was in the days of Noah?
Yes.
So shall it also be in the coming of the Son of Man.
And he makes the point that our knowledge would increase.
So from a theological point of view, this is a real question to me. I mean, are we literally right now concocting the actual keys, the tools for once again allowing Humans to be altered to the degree
Well, in
that...
fact, we even discussed this last Friday on Sci-Friday about the possibility of creating an electronic brain that would serve as a fit extension for an extra from a spiritual entity. We know that the human mind is an electrochemical machine that can be overwhelmed by an external evil entity.
Yes.
Why not an actual electrical machine?
And that's the ultimate goal of most transhumanists, and that is to merge the biological with the software, essentially, become Cylons.
Yeah. And, you know, there are those who will say that God will never let this happen. And he will intervene before this can happen, and so we shouldn't worry about this. And I would argue that even if that is true, the point that I made yesterday, the fact that our children are growing up and putting and so many in academia and the technology sciences are putting their faith in technology for their salvation, their eternal souls.
And Derek,
that is a theological point we need to drive home. This is a new sci-fi religion.
Right.
Yes.
And you mentioned the sake of the children. Well, the children out there right now, for the most part, are hearing a transhumanist message.
Yes.
If the church does not get involved in this discussion, then we leave it to the secularists, the people that have a humanistic model, a humanistic mind frame, to define the language for us. And that's what's happening in public school. It's what's happening at the university level. And so these kids are growing up not thinking there's anything wrong with this at all, right?
Absolutely
because
not.
they're getting a lopsided message. A big part of the motivation for this film was, it is our hope that churches, you mentioned earlier, not just Gan Shamura's church, churches will get this documentary, play it in their church, or put it into an adult class and get a conversation started around educating the church to the ethical issues, the good and the bad. And we do in this film also talk about the good.
Yeah, and there's a lot of good.
There is a lot of good. I mean, I imagine that that in the very near future, I could see within a decade or less the cure to cancer. Because we're going to learn how to make repairs without doing what we do right now with radiation and all those other things.
Cutting and burning, yeah.
Yeah. And so, and that's, to me, that would be a huge blessing from God.
Yes.
To use biotechnology to cure these kind of diseases. But a line has to be drawn, and the church has always been at the forefront. We built all the great hospital systems. We equipped people to be healers, as Jesus said that we should be. And that should be a role that we play, but somewhere along the line we've got to say, but there's also a line we shouldn't cross. We don't want to build, Hitler's Ubermensch or the Aryan super race, right?
Right.
With the universal distribution of these technologies to create extremely long lives, to enhance cognition, are we creating supermen without regenerate hearts? We are basically creating the possibility that the next Stalin or Hitler or Pol Pot has essentially superpowers.
Exactly. Rather than creating heaven on earth, which is what transhumanists believe, they would actually be creating hell on earth.
Exactly.
Well, and one final thought from me. A headline jumped out at me this morning. It said, will scientists cure all diseases within the next 10 years? And the answer behind it was yes. And these are scientists that are saying they're going to cure all diseases. And I want to see the cure to all disease too, but the way the headline, you know how I see headlines different than a lot of people do. The headline to me was, will scientists overcome the curse of the fall within the next 10 years?
Right. That's absolutely
So there's something so hubristic about what we're talking about here.
Absolutely.
Because at the background of it, they keep saying we are going to become as gods.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, Rick Kurzweil actually said that.
Right.
Yes. And sadly, most in the church are unaware of this topic, which is why we're putting so much emphasis on this. There are other issues in the world that are of critical importance. The destruction of the Christian communities in the Middle East, not least the threat faced by Israel from its near enemies. But transhumanism threatens to fundamentally rewrite what it means to be human, to change what it means to have been created in the image of God. We're wanting to take the image of God and recreate it in our own image. The movie is Inhuman, The Final Phase of Man is Here. It is released this coming Tuesday from SkyWatchTV and Defender Films, and we hope that you will take advantage of the offer you'll hear about in just a moment. In the meantime, have a blessed weekend. For Tom Horn and Sharon K. Gilbert, I'm Derek Gilbert. Thanks for watching. This is SkyWatch TV.
Forthcoming, exclusively from SkyWatchTV, for a very limited time starting November 17th, 2015. When you purchase the new documentary film Inhuman and the companion book Dead Pets Don't Lie from SkyWatchTV, you'll receive the largest giveaway in SkyWatchTV history. An unprecedented $300 in free books, audio sets, and DVDs to add to your library or to give away as gifts during this holiday season. Included in this limited time giveaway are never-before offered free audio sets. Over 30 hours of the most sought-after interviews in history with global experts combined on a special 2-disc volume set discussing the unfolding genetic Armageddon now underway and what you need to know to survive the future. Featuring Something Transhumanism This Way Comes, The Coming Replacement Humans, The Days of Noah, The Coming Zombie Apocalypse, Conspiracy Theory, Psychotronic Warfare. Also, for a very limited time, in addition to the never-before-offered free best-selling audio sets, if you order before this special offer expires, you'll also receive the multi-part SkyWatch-TV special investigative report on Inhuman the documentary and Dead Pets Don't Lie, the award-winning book Forbidden Gates, Pandemonium's Engine, the best-selling DVD by dog behavior expert Joe Ardis, The Natural Dog Training Method. The breakthrough book for pet enthusiasts everywhere, Do Our Pets Go to Heaven? 2 additional mystery books with a $40 value. And if you're one of the first 3,000 customers to place your order during this limited time offer, you will also receive, absolutely free, the groundbreaking WorldNet daily film The Last Pope featuring Tom Horn. Place your order beginning November 17th, 2015. Altogether, the never-before-offered free 6 full audio series on a 2-disc volume set plus the 5 free books and 2 additional DVDs total an astounding $300 giveaway to add to your library or to give away as gifts during this holiday season. So it's urgent that beginning November 17th, 2015, you order the new documentary film Inhuman and the companion book Dead Pets Don't Lie for only $39.95 to also receive the largest giveaway in SkyWatch-TV history. But please understand this offer will end without notification and is on a first-come, first-served basis starting November 17th. So be sure to visit SkyWatchTV.com to follow the countdown to the greatest giveaway in SkyWatch-TV history. Order the new documentary film Inhuman and the companion book Dead Pets Don't Lie for only $39.95 to also receive the largest giveaway in SkyWatch-TV history.
And all that, but he had a way of kind of bridging the gap between the world views that really appealed to me, because I'm trying to look at the science. I want to see the good of it as well as the bad. I do believe there will be a lot of good that comes out of biotechnology.
Oh, absolutely.
But I also have real concerns when we start talking about tinkering with God's creation.
Right.
You know, it's easy.
5 years in the making to get this documentary done. So lots of behind-the-scenes work, script writing, setting up interviews. Who was your favorite person to talk to?
Oh, wow, that would be really hard to say because, you know, it's amazing. Probably Gary Stearman was the one guy that you wouldn't really have expected to stand out in this documentary film. And because you have done so much work on the film as well, including a great deal of the narration, as people will discover, and you were our science advisor all along the way, you know, you would want to pick someone like Hugo de Garis, right? Some guy that's decades of research into artificial brain designing. But Gary, you know, our friend, he just comes across in such a way that he's very intelligent too, and he is smart about science.
Put down that gene splicer. It's time for Science Sci-Friday on SkyWatch TV. Today, a special program on Friday the 13th of November in 2015. I'm Derek Gilbert. Coming out in just a few days, the documentary film from SkyWatch TV and Defender Films, Inhuman, the final phase of man is here. Joining me in studio to talk about some of the background behind the film, Tom Horn and my best friend, Sharon K. Gilbert.
Hi, sweetie. And we are so excited to have you with us on Sci-Friday.
Yeah, well, I've got the chance to be there with you guys yesterday, so I thought I'll just hang out and come back and we'll do it again.
Exactly. Well, the cool thing is that you came up with the idea many years ago. It's been